So the level of fear that a lot of people could have and should not be applicable to them. LeBron James does not have to make another dime, and he is set for generations. With what he has accomplished and the wealth that he has accumulated, there is no reason to fear. And so when you are quiet and you have that kind of cachet and that kind of cushion, but you're still fearful, it doesn't get much weaker than that. That is not LeBron James. That is not Serena Williams in this particular situation. And I applaud them for saying what they said. As it pertains to the president, I could care less. His words were predictable. We understand where he's coming from. We understand why he says what he says. And my issue on that has always been the same. He hijacked the issue. If they were excoriating Colin Kaepernick for his position on racial oppression, racial inequality, police brutality, and that was what they were focused on, then it would be subject for discussion and debate. But the fact that folks have been allowed to try and turn it into something that it is not, which is an issue of patriotism, is just an evasive tactic that I think has fooled millions of people who were looking for an excuse to hate on somebody anyway, and they found it. In the end, LeBron and Serena softened the blow of that, because what they've done is provide cushion for the Colin Kaepernick supporters of the world and for the Nike supporters of the world, highlighting that this is the right thing to do, or to use Max's words from yesterday, being on the right side of history.
Yeah, what we're seeing here reflected on the one hand by Trump's statement, which I agree with Stephen A. This is transparently an appeal to his base. Although at least this time he said, hey, this is America. You can do what you want.
That is true.
Right.
That is true.
And Serena saying, I support this. What we're seeing is the division that has been roiling our politics being reflected in the sports world, as it were. And what is that division? On the one hand, you have a camp that Trump's base, that voted for him as a monolith, meaning all like lockstep. Mm-hmm. Older white people. And by the way, I'm generalizing, of course, but you can't talk about large groups of people without making some generalizations. It doesn't mean every older white person voted for Trump, or a younger person of color doesn't want to stand for the national anthem. I'm not saying that, but we're talking about what's underneath here, fundamentally what's going on. Trump's base, who he's appealing to, are older white people who have benefited from a status quo which confers upon them privilege that's meritless. It's just based on your race and your, in some cases, your gender, right? Mm-hmm. And that's who he is talking to. And who is Serena Williams reflecting? Serena Williams is reflecting groups who have come in from the margins. She is a woman of color. She's reflecting the sensibilities of the multiracial coalition that opposed Trump's base, which is more reflected in the youth culture than with older people. This is to whom Nike primarily is going to sell their wares. That's to whom they are trying to appeal. But fundamentally, the debate is between one side who says, we want things the way they are because we benefit from the status quo, or better yet, the way they used to be because we benefited even more, and another side that's saying, wait a minute, everyone wants to come into this. We want to do this together. And if that means that the NFL, which was, this is where I want to end up the point, Stephen A. The NFL was a shared experience once upon a time, or so it seemed. In a world where there's not just, there's a proliferation of media, and so everyone's attention is everywhere. On Monday nights, let's say, everyone, 50 million, however many people, millions of people, are all watching the NFL. And in a time where we time shift things and we're not sharing everything at the same time, everyone's watching it together. And so there's this sense that the NFL is the one place that's unifying. But it turns out, and Kaepernick's protest showed this, maybe not everyone felt the way that the people who Trump is talking to felt.
Here's my thing.
And Serena's reflecting that.
Here's my deal. I don't like when people, I will say this, I don't have a problem with their position, but I'm not enamored with the notion that we're standing with Nike. Stand with Colin Kaepernick. Let's not sit up there and act like Nike, really stepped out on a limb here. The reality is that if you really wanted to step out on a limb, you're about a year and a half late to the party. because Nike could have been taking this position. Now, obviously, it wasn't the 30th year to commemorate to just do a campaign, and I get all of that. But they could have taken this position much, much earlier. That's number one. Number two, what I will say that I applaud and I appreciate that nobody has brought up about Nike is that it's one thing for Trump to attack NFL players. It's another thing to attack Phil Knight. If there's anybody that could stand up to President Trump, it would be Phil Knight. He has the cachet. Now, this is an individual, you're talking about Nike, that has rented space at on Trump's properties, which is what the president pointed out. But Nike's planning on moving out and moving to a new location on Fifth Avenue come 2019. So they're definitely going to be away from that. But in the end, what I'm saying is that if you are a Phil Knight, basically you're roaming in the same circles, you're communicating with some similar people, and more importantly, you have the muscle and the cachet to offset what Trump will not only throw in the direction of Nike, but what he would throw in the direction of the National Football League. So if you are the National Football League, this is a good thing, actually, because even though Nike did not make them aware of what the intent was and what they were doing, they didn't give them a heads up. Supposedly, the NFL found out on Monday like everybody else. If you're the NFL, think about this for a second here. Nike is an incredibly powerful and potent brand. Phil Knight is an iconic figure in and of his own right. They garner a level of support and muscle. If you combine that with the National Football League, it might serve to assist you in warding off whatever vitriol the president comes at you with down the line in the days and weeks to come. Because when those games tip off, if the president is true to form, he's going to have something to say, even if it's for evasive measures. He's going to have something to say while the football games are being played. And the NFL looked helpless last year in doing so. That might not be the case now that you've got Nike's muscle supporting them.